You started doing the work. You went to therapy. You read the books. You looked at your patterns. You faced the parts of yourself you had been avoiding for years. And something shifted. You started setting boundaries. You stopped tolerating treatment that used to feel normal. You started saying no without guilt. You started choosing yourself in situations where you used to disappear. You started becoming more honest, more authentic, more aligned with who you actually are instead of who everyone needed you to be. And you expected people to be happy for you. You expected them to celebrate your growth. You expected them to see that you were finally becoming healthier, stronger, more whole. But that is not what happened. Instead, they became uncomfortable, irritated. Some of them got angry. Some of them accused you of changing, of becoming difficult, of not being yourself anymore. Some of them pulled away. Some of them tried to pull you back to who you used to be, and you felt confused, hurt, maybe even guilty, because you are doing something good. You are healing. You are growing. You are becoming a better version of yourself. So why does it feel like you are being punished for it? Why do the people who claim to love you seem threatened by your progress? Why does your growth make them so uncomfortable that they would rather see you stay small than watch you evolve? Here is the brutal truth that Freud understood and most people never learn. Your psychological growth is threatening, not to everyone, but to certain people, to the people who benefited from your dysfunction, to the people who needed you to stay small so they could feel big, to the people whose own lack of growth becomes glaringly obvious when you start changing. Your growth holds up a mirror, and what they see in that mirror is not you becoming a bad person. It is them staying exactly the same. It is their own stagnation, their own avoidance, their own refusal to do the work you are doing. And that is unbearable, because as long as you stayed broken, they could tell themselves that everyone is broken. As long as you stayed stuck, they could justify their own stuckness. As long as you accepted dysfunction as normal, they did not have to face how abnormal their patterns actually are. But now you are changing. Now you are proving that growth is possible, that healing is real, that people can actually break cycles and become something new. And that threatens the entire structure they have built to avoid their own pain. Freud called this resistance, and he understood it as one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. People resist change, not just their own change, but your change too, especially when your change exposes something they do not want to see about themselves. Think about who is most irritated by your growth. Is it the person who never does their own work? The person who has been stuck in the same patterns for years? The person who uses you as an emotional dumping ground? The person who needs you to play a certain role in their life? The person who has built their identity around being the helper, the fixer, the one who has it together, and your growth means they lose their purpose? Pay attention to who feels threatened, because their irritation is not about you. It is about them. It is about what your growth reveals about their lack of growth. It is about the ways your healing highlights their wounds. It is about the fact that you are doing something they are too afraid to do. And instead of being inspired by you, instead of letting your growth motivate their own, they try to stop you. They try to make you feel guilty. They try to convince you that you are the problem, that you have changed in a bad way, that you used to be better, that you are being selfish, that you are hurting them by becoming healthier. And if you are not careful, if you do not understand what is happening, you will believe them. You will start to doubt yourself. You will start to think that maybe you are going too far. Maybe you are being too rigid. Maybe you should go back to being more accommodating, more flexible, more willing to sacrifice yourself for the comfort of others. And that is exactly what they want, because your growth is inconvenient. Your boundaries are uncomfortable. Your refusal to play the old role disrupts the entire system. And they would rather have the old you back, even if the old you was suffering, than adjust to the new you who will not tolerate dysfunction anymore. Freud would tell you that this is about homeostasis. Systems resist change. Families, friendships, relationships, they all develop a certain equilibrium. And that equilibrium is built on everyone playing their assigned role. When one person changes, when one person stops playing the role they were given, the entire system becomes unstable. And the system will fight to restore balance, not by growing with you, but by pulling you back, by making you feel like you are the problem, by increasing pressure until you conform again. And most people cannot withstand that pressure. Most people cave. They go back to the old patterns. They shrink themselves again. They sacrifice their growth to maintain the relationship, because the fear of losing people, the fear of being rejected, the fear of being alone, that fear is stronger than their commitment to their own healing. But here is what you need to understand. If people cannot handle your growth, they were never really for you. They were for the version of you that served them. They were for the you that made them comfortable. They were for the you that did not challenge them to look at themselves. And losing those people, that is not a loss. That is a clearing. That is making space for people who can actually meet you where you are. People who celebrate your growth because they are doing their own work. People who do not need you to stay small because they are not afraid of your bigness. If you are recognizing this pattern in your own life, if you are feeling the resistance from people who claim to care about you, take a moment and like this video, not just for engagement, but as validation, as acknowledgement that your growth is not the problem. Their stagnation is. Let me pause here for a moment because I need to ask you something that matters. Have you ever felt like you are living two lives at once? The one everyone sees, where you smile and function and pretend everything is fine, and the one inside your head, where you are struggling, confused, doubting every choice you make? That split, that exhausting performance of being okay when you are not, it is something Freud understood deeply. And I want you to know something. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are human. And what you are feeling right now, this exact struggle you are carrying, someone else watching this video is feeling it too. They are sitting there thinking they are the only one, just like you might be thinking right now. So I'm going to ask you to do something that might feel vulnerable, but it is important. Go down to the comments right now and type this exact phrase. I feel this. Just those 3 words. I feel this. You do not need to explain. You do not need to write your whole story. Just let those words be your voice today. Because when you do that, something powerful happens. The person scrolling through these comments, the one who feels completely alone in their pain, they are going to see your comment. And for the first time in maybe days, weeks, or months, they are going to realize they are not alone either. Your 3 words might be the thing that helps them breathe a little easier tonight. This is not just about engagement. This is about connection. This is about breaking the silence that keeps us isolated in our suffering. Freud built his entire life's work on one simple truth. We heal when we speak what has been hidden. So speak it now. Go to the comments, type I feel this, and know that by doing so you are not just helping yourself. You are helping every single person who needs to know that what they feel is real, is valid, and is shared. Do it now. I will wait. Now let me tell you about the specific types of people who will be most irritated by your growth. The first type is the person who is invested in your brokenness. Maybe they were the one who always got to play savior. The one who got to feel needed because you were struggling. The one whose identity was built around fixing you, helping you, being the strong one while you were the weak one. Your growth threatens their entire sense of self. Because if you do not need saving anymore, what is their purpose? If you can handle your own problems, how do they feel important? If you are becoming strong, how do they maintain their position as the capable one? So they resist your growth. They minimize your progress. They remind you of how you used to be. They create new crises for you to need them for. They do anything to keep you dependent because your independence feels like rejection to them. And Freud would tell you that this dynamic is toxic. That real love celebrates growth. That healthy relationships make space for both people to evolve. And if someone needs you to stay broken so they can feel whole, that is not love. That is codependency, and you do not owe anyone your dysfunction to maintain their sense of purpose. The second type is the person who is still stuck and cannot handle watching you move forward. These are the people who are living the same life they were living 5 years ago. The same patterns, the same complaints, the same excuses. And when you start changing, when you start breaking your patterns and creating a different life, it forces them to confront the fact that they could be doing the same thing. That they are not stuck because of circumstances. They are stuck because of choices, and that truth is unbearable. So instead of being inspired by your growth, they resent it. They tell you that you are being unrealistic, that you are trying too hard, that you are going to burn out, that you should just accept things as they are. They disguise their fear as concern. They frame their resistance as caring about you. But what they really care about is not having to look at their own stagnation, not having to ask themselves why they are not growing too. Your progress makes their lack of progress impossible to ignore. And they would rather pull you down than face what your growth is showing them about themselves. The third type is the person whose behavior you are no longer tolerating. These are the people who treated you poorly when you had no boundaries, who took advantage of your people-pleasing, who knew you would always say yes, always accommodate, always put their needs above your own. And now you are saying no. Now you are calling out disrespect. Now you are requiring reciprocity. Now you are not available for one-sided relationships anymore. And they are furious. They tell you that you have changed. That you are not the person they used to know. That you are being selfish, demanding, difficult. And you know what? They are right. You have changed. You are not the person who let them walk all over you anymore. You are not the person who sacrificed yourself to keep them comfortable. You are not the person who accepted mistreatment as the price of connection. And that new version of you, that version does not serve them. So they try to shame you back into compliance. They try to make you feel guilty for having standards. They try to convince you that boundaries are mean, that self-respect is selfishness, that protecting yourself is hurting them. But Freud would tell you this: anyone who is upset that you will not let them mistreat you anymore was never someone who cared about you. They cared about what they could get from you, and losing access to that makes them angry. But their anger is not your responsibility. Your healing is. The fourth type is the family member who needs the family system to stay exactly as it is. Family systems are incredibly resistant to change, because every family has roles: the responsible one, the scapegoat, the mediator, the rebel, the golden child, the identified patient. And these roles maintain balance. Everyone knows their place. Everyone knows how to interact. And when one person starts to change, when one person refuses to play their assigned role anymore, the entire system destabilizes, and the family will do everything possible to force that person back into their role. If you are the scapegoat and you stop accepting blame, they will escalate their criticism. If you are the caretaker and you stop managing everyone's emotions, they will tell you that you are abandoning them. If you are the identified patient and you start getting healthy, they will find new problems in you to focus on, because your growth threatens the structure that everyone has organized their life around. And most families would rather maintain dysfunctional stability than embrace healthy change. Freud understood this deeply. He saw how family dynamics shape personality, how roles get assigned in childhood and reinforced for decades, how hard it is to break free from those patterns, because breaking free means threatening the entire system, and the system will fight back. Not with love, not with support, but with guilt, pressure, manipulation, anything to get you back in line. You already know this, but we're not ready to understand ourselves alone. The human mind is vast, complex, and often frightening to explore without guidance. If this content is helping you see yourself more clearly, if these insights about Freud's work are bringing light to parts of yourself you've kept hidden, then consider subscribing to this channel. This is not just another psychology channel. This is a space where we explore the depths of human nature together, where we take the most profound concepts from psychoanalysis and make them accessible, practical, and deeply personal. Every video here is designed to help you understand not just theory, but yourself, your patterns, your fears, your desires, the invisible forces that have been shaping your choices without your awareness. When you subscribe, you are making a commitment to yourself. You are saying that you are ready to look deeper, to understand more, to stop running from the truth of who you are. And I promise you this: I will be here every week, bringing you insights that matter, explanations that actually make sense, and perspectives that can genuinely change how you see yourself and the world around you. This journey of self-understanding is not easy. Freud knew this. He spent his entire life mapping the human psyche precisely because he understood how lost we can feel inside our own minds. But you do not have to walk this path alone. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Become part of a community of people who have decided that understanding themselves is worth the discomfort, worth the effort, worth the time. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. And that relationship deserves your attention, your curiosity, and your courage. So subscribe now and let's continue this exploration together. Your future self will thank you for taking this step today. So what do? How do you keep growing when your growth is met with resistance? Freud would tell you that the first step is to understand that their resistance is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their fear, their discomfort, their inability to handle change, and you cannot control that. You cannot make them comfortable with your growth. You cannot grow at a pace that does not threaten them, because any growth will threaten them if they are not growing themselves. So you have to make a choice. Do you shrink yourself to maintain relationships with people who need you small? Or do you continue growing and accept that some people will not be able to come with you? And that is a painful choice, because you might lose people you love. You might lose family members. You might lose friendships that have been part of your life for years. But what is the alternative? Going back to who you were? Sacrificing your healing to keep people comfortable? Living a smaller life so that no one has to feel threatened? That is not sustainable. That is not living. That is slowly dying to maintain the illusion of connection with people who do not actually see you. The second step is to find your people. The people who are doing their own work. The people who celebrate growth because they understand how hard it is. The people who do not need you to stay the same because they are committed to their own evolution. Those people exist. They are harder to find than the people who want you small, but they are out there. And when you find them, when you connect with people who match your commitment to growth, everything changes. You realize that you are not the problem. You realize that healthy relationships can handle change. You realize that real love makes space for evolution. And you stop trying to force people who cannot handle your growth to stay in your life. You stop begging people to celebrate you who are threatened by you. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for the person you are becoming. The third step is to trust the process. Trust that the people who leave were supposed to leave. Trust that the discomfort you are causing is necessary. Trust that your growth is more important than their comfort. Trust that on the other side of this resistance is a life that actually fits you, a life where you are not performing, a life where you are not playing a role, a life where you get to be whole and real and authentic. And yes, that life might be lonelier at first. Yes, you might lose people. Yes, it might hurt, but it is your life, and you only get one. And spending it trying to be palatable to people who need you broken is not living. It is hiding. It is performing. It is betraying yourself to maintain relationships that were never based on who you actually are. Here is what I need you to understand as we close. Your growth is not the problem. You are not being too much, too difficult, too demanding, too intense. You are becoming yourself, and the people who are irritated by that, they were never comfortable with the real you. They were comfortable with the version of you that served them. And that version is gone, and it should be gone, because that version was costing you everything. Your growth is threatening only to people who benefit from your smallness, to people who need you stuck, to people who cannot handle watching someone actually do the work they are too afraid to do. And those people do not get to determine your path. They do not get to make you feel guilty for healing. They do not get to convince you that growing is somehow betraying them. You are not betraying anyone by becoming whole. You are fulfilling the one responsibility you have in this life, to become yourself, fully, completely, unapologetically. So let me ask you this as we close. Who in your life is most threatened by your growth? Who is trying to pull you back? Who is making you feel guilty for changing? And what would it look like to stop trying to make them comfortable? What would it look like to choose your growth over their approval? What would it look like to trust that anyone who cannot celebrate your healing was never really for you in the first place? Share this video with someone who is growing and feeling guilty about it. Someone who is changing and being punished for it. Someone who needs to know that the right people will not be threatened by their evolution. And tell them, keep growing, keep changing, keep becoming. The people who are supposed to stay will stay. The people who are threatened will leave. And that is not a loss. That is a liberation. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work even when people resist it. Thank you for choosing yourself even when it costs you relationships. You are not the problem. Your growth is not the problem. The problem is people who need you small, and you do not owe them your smallness. You owe yourself your fullness, and that is exactly what you are claiming. Keep going.